So welcome. Thank you guys so much for being here and hanging out with us today. You are here today with Melissa Curley, who is our Director of Lending. And I'm Justine Kogel. I am a program officer here at Akiptan. And for those of you who might not be as familiar with what we do, we are a native CDFI that was founded on the principles of lender security and producer prosperity. We work primarily we work all the time in agriculture in Indian country. And we're truly here for the producers. So we're going to give you a little bit of background about us, and then we're going to dive into the meat and potatoes of why we're here today. So the webinar today is going to be from idea to application, and we're really going to break down some of those loan documents. Melissa's going to walk us through some different templates and what those mean. And this is a really good time to ask questions. So if you guys have questions on any of the documents, please feel free to drop those in the Q&A or in the chat, and we will answer those as they come through. So here at Akiptan, our mission is to transform native agriculture and food economies by delivering creative capital, leading paradigm changes, and enhancing producer prosperity across Indian country. Our vision is a future where native producers across Indian country have unrestricted, equitable access to capital, tools, and knowledge that supports their growth and prosperity. Our systems reflect traditional values, responsiveness to needs, and drive innovation in food and agriculture, filling financial gaps and restoring native stewardship with land, food, and economies. Akiptan is actually the Lakota word for working together in a cooperative effort, and everything that we do at this organization is truly that. It is a partnership. CDFIs, Community Development Financial Institutes, are like banks in the sense that they provide loans, but you cannot deposit money. So that makes us slightly different. The other thing that's a difference for us is we have the ability and get to provide technical assistance, and that comes in the form of business and goal planning, webinars like this, succession planning, financial literacy training to really help producers understand the bottom line of their business. So while there are laws that we have to follow, we are relatively unregulated, and that allows us to have the flexible and patient capital that we do have. Since inception in 2019, we have reached 39 tribal nations. We've committed over $57 million in loan capital. Kudos to our loan team. We're so proud of them. That is an amazing accomplishment. And we are climbing our numbers up. We have 757 loans out there. So right now, how would you rate your understanding of Akiptan's loan application process? This is new to me. I need to know more, or I'm familiar. Go ahead and drop that in the chat just so we have an idea of where we're starting. Some of the products and services that we have are youth loans. We have general loans, we have operating loans and lines of credit, as well as land mortgages and down payment loans. So eligible activities for these loans are anything that is related to production agriculture, farming, ranching, fishing, timber, retail. The eligibility requirement is simply that you must be involved in something in the native agriculture field. Anything on the food chain from initial production all the way to retail. And so if you have an idea, come to us, ask. It's always worth that quick conversation. So we do have a youth loan. This is excellent for our younger kids. It is ages 10 to 18. You can see the different tiers on the screen there. This works well for 4-H show animals, can be used with any type of native ag business, and is often paired with an FSA loan that they have for youth in particular. And so it really gives our young entrepreneurs a sense of ownership in agriculture, and it really helps them to start their business when they're younger and can continue to grow that. So we do pair this loan with our youth financial literacy curriculum. We do have that available, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. Our general loan is for 18 years and older. It's up to $500,000 and has a 12-year repayment. This can be used for equipment, infrastructure, transportation, livestock, refinancing current debt, anything of that nature. Operating and line of credit is our shorter loans. These fill the short-term needs, fill those gaps as we need to, as we're operating. Again, 18 years old, 12 months of repayment on this one. And our land mortgage and down payment assistance. We are very excited because our loan team has now closed loans within trust land. And so we're very, very proud of that. It was once said that it couldn't be done, and native CDFIs, including Akiptan loan officers, have proved that it can. And so just know we are here to help with the access to land. We know that's a big thing in our regions. So we do have this loan. It is available to you. I'm going to just visit quickly about our repayment styles, and then I'm going to kick it over to Melissa. So Akiptan has two different repayment styles. The first is your traditional repayment style. It is a blended payment from the very beginning. You're going to pay principal and interest. This is the loan type that most of us are very familiar with. So when we look at that loan, the amortization table looks something similar to this. This is a 7-year note at $250,000, and you're going to pay the same amount every year. It's going to pay down on the principal. It's going to pay the interest. Very familiar with this. This is a great loan for those who are already at a capacity level where their operations running efficiently, they're at maximum capacity, and then we can help with this. For those who are on a growing side of things and emerging into new areas or wanting to branch out and expand, we have a cool option that's called the interest-only repayment option. We have the loan that will allow you 5 years of interest-only payments, and then it's going to change over into the principal and interest payments that we just talked about. This is really unique and innovative. It is honestly one of the coolest things that we get to do. It allows you as the producer to reinvest into yourself right away to grow your operation. I think that this is an amazing opportunity for so many producers, so I really feel passionately about these options. It's really great for livestock and those who are trying to grow in that initial period of starting up. Interest-only payment option looks something like this. This is a $200,000 loan. It is how we would structure essentially the first 5 years, which would be your interest only. And then it's going to roll into the next 7 years with that blended payment. So from here, I am going to kick it over to Melissa, and I'm going to try and do my best to not scroll too fast. She will definitely let me know because I will screw up at some point, you guys. But we want to welcome Melissa Curley, our Director of Lending here. Feel free to use the chat again for any questions as we go through more of the paperwork side of our lending application. Go ahead, Melissa.
All right, thanks, Justine. Good afternoon, everybody. As Justine said, we are going to go over specifically what Akiptan requires of their applicants. And in most times, you will see the same information needed through a traditional lender, such as a bank, a credit union, or even FSA. So they kind of go hand in hand with applying for a loan anywhere. So what we're going to go over first is pretty unique to Akiptan. This is kind of our discovery phase. This is where we get to know you as a producer and we get to know your operation a little bit better. And so because we serve nationwide, we do have staff here located in the Eagle Butte office on the Cheyenne River Sioux Reservation, but then we also have staff that are virtual employees. So this initial visit can be anywhere from coming into the office and meeting in person, a phone call as simple as an email or a text, or you can also set up a Zoom meeting with one of the loan staff here. And during this discovery phase, we'll go over topics such as your operational goals, your financials, what those look like, and then we offer what's called an intake survey. And so what we'll do with this intake survey is it'll allow us to track our key performance indicators for Akiptan. It is not to apply for credit. However, we're able to take this and see how many producers we were able to hit in each reservation, in each region, what type of producer you are, as far as like if you're a livestock operator, a farmer, a value-added production producer. And then we'll get to see how many years you have been operating. So for the most part, right now, we're probably sitting almost 50% with our new and beginning producers who are just now getting started versus our experienced producers. So a lot of information we're able to collect from this simple intake survey. And so it just allows us to track, again, different things that are very exciting to Akiptan. As you've seen, we've committed over $57 million in loans $57 million in loans to over 700 applicants. And those applicants range all across Indian country from the Great Plains region all the way down to the south. So very, very exciting to see what we get to bring to Akiptan and how much we can help these producers. And then we have two different types of intake forms. We have just the fillable PDF paper form that you can fill out. We can email it to you, we can mail it to you. And then we also created an online intake form, which is very, very easy. We have a link available to share out to anybody that is interested, and it basically takes you through everything virtually. So you don't have to print, you don't have to sign, you don't have to scan and email back. Next slide, please. So then during this intake phase, we'll also provide you with a loan client checklist. And right now, Akiptan currently has 3 of them listed here: individual and married couple or joint applicants, your business entity, this is more of the LLCs, and then we have our youth checklist. So what we're going to go over and take a deeper dive into is the individual / married or joint applicant checklist. So that way we can get an idea of what it all means, make sure that it doesn't look overwhelming. Some producers are very scared. They see this long checklist and they kind of opt out. And sometimes new producers have never had to go through this, and so they just don't do it. So that's kind of where that technical assistance comes in at. So what we'll do is we'll go over the checklist with you as a producer. And this is kind of what we all ask for. So loan application to apply for credit, the credit and bank authorization form, and then your driver's license, proof of enrollment, for verification of identity, 3 years tax return should you have them, cattle brand depending on what type of producer you are. If it's livestock, usually we ask for a brand, proof of leases. This comes in any form. If you're a range unit holder that leases land from the tribe, this is where you'll get your proof of leases. And then if you already own land, which some people do, then we'll get a copy of how many acres you have and then what the capacity is for AUM. We ask for proof of insurance. This kind of goes with your titled vehicles, like your pickups, your side-by-sides, four-wheelers, things like that. The labor trade agreement, we'll go more into detail about that in a couple slides away. The detailed loan narrative and loan fund budget, financial literacy coursework, Credit Karma account, and then your financials, which is your balance sheet, 3-year cash flow, and cattle growth chart. So as you can see, just looking at this list, it probably looks like a lot. It probably looks like you're in for it. You're gonna be stressed. You're gonna be frustrated. I know I was when I very first started going through a loan process. So we're gonna break it down even more and separate it out to what you should already have, and then what Akiptan provides to you to help fill out the loan file. So the next slide is documents that you should already have available. So sometimes when you look at a really big long list, you're a little confused, you're not sure how to get this information, you're not sure where to go to get this information, and so we broke it down in sections. So you should, as an operator, already have your driver's license, your proof of enrollment, 3 years tax return if you have been filing. If you haven't been filing, and you only file, let's just say last year, then we would only ask for the last year's tax return. So that's why we have if applicable. And then a cash flow and a balance sheet. You may already have that if you're already in operations. So most lenders do ask for a balance sheet and a cash flow projection. If you already have it, we can accept what you already have and just verify it and add to it should we need to. So that usually comes from your senior lender if you already have one and you're reaching out for extended credit. So all you would have to do is just ask your banker for a copy of those and send those over, or we can ask them for you on your behalf. And then the cattle horse brand, which you should already have. The proof of insurance, again, that goes and relates to the title vehicles. Proof of leases, depending on what type of land you're operating on, and then the Credit Karma account. So as most of you might see, like, yes, I do in fact have probably all of those documents listed. They're probably just laying in the house or in a file somewhere. And it's as easy as calling your banker. They might also have your 3-year tax return as well. So it's just hitting two birds with one stone to be able to request that information. But then you might think, well, what is a Credit Karma account? Most producers that do come into Akiptan, they really don't know what a Credit Karma account is. And so we kind of wanted to break that out a little bit deeper and explain it a little bit better. So with this account, it helps producers or anybody for that matter understand what's actually being reported on your credit report. And then it allows you to do any type of disputes should a trade line not be listed there. Because if you have a trade line that shouldn't be listed there, it is going to affect your credit score and your overall performance. Justine.
I like that. I raised my hand. I'm like, hey, what is a trade line?
So a trade line is any type of debt that you have, whether it's a credit card, whether it's a term loan, if it's educational funds, if it's like a IHS medical bill or any type of medical bill at that point. What it does is it reports on the balance of that debt, the payment of that debt, and then if you are current, if you have been late, like all of your payment history. And so every single thing that's being reported to the 3 credit bureaus, you'll be able to see on the Credit Karma account. Our biggest concern with wanting our producers to know what their credit score is and what's being reported is medical bills. So usually with Indian Health Services, when you go to IHS and you get medical things taken care of, and they bill you and you don't pay that, then they'll send it to a collection account, which they shouldn't be doing. And so by being able to track what's being reported on your credit report, you can see that collection account pulled up from IHS. You can dispute it. You can go to your local IHS and try to figure out what has happened, because those medical bills should never be reported on any type of native producer's credit report. Now, as far as other medical bills that could be in collections, that will also bring, outside of IHS. So that will help you figure out what you need to do to get those taken care of. So overall, most ag producers don't have trade lines. Some banks don't report to credit bureaus. And we thought that was a little unfair for our producers, only because, let's say, for example, at our local bank here in Eagle Butte, the bank doesn't report. So you could have an outstanding credit history, like you've made your loan payments on time for, let's say, 10 years, and none of that was being reported on your credit report. And so if you go to another lender, let's say FSA, and they pull up your credit report and there's nothing listed, then that tells them that you don't have any history. And so your credit score could be 0. It could be, as low as 500. And so for Akiptan, we thought it would be an opportunity for our producers to be able to have that history. And so we do take our ag loans and report to all credit bureaus, just to help you along the way in case, you do want to get away from Akiptan because we are not able to service your need based on our max loan limit. You can go to the bank or you can go to FSA with a credit score at that time.
Melissa, before we move on, what does it cost me as a producer to get a Credit Karma report?
So creditkarma.com is free. You can use it on a laptop. You can download an app. I have the app on my phone. It doesn't hurt your score when you check it. It's a soft inquiry on your report, so it literally doesn't do anything but allow you to access your credit report for free. If you are a little bit hesitant on the Credit Karma, like inputting your personal information on this account or on this website, you do have the ability to order one free credit report from all three credit bureaus once a year. And that will also help you track what's being reported too. And that's free of charge. You don't have to pay for that every year. Any other questions before we move on? Perfect. So then the next thing we'll go over is what Akiptan prepares for you on your behalf. So all of the documents that we have available for you. So the intake survey, as mentioned before, that's kind of what we'll provide. Again, that's for our KPI, so that way we can track different type of information to help, one, let all of our investors know like how many people we were able to serve in which area. Of course, we never give out your personal information. We take highly into consideration your confidentiality and your privacy. And then we provide the loan application, and that's the application to apply for credit. It does have some of the same information requested as the intake form, but again, they're used for different purposes. Intake survey is for KPI tracking, and then loan application is to request credit. And then we offer a credit and bank authorization form. So this form allows us to pull your credit, and then also allows us to talk to any other lender or any other banker, whether it's a teller, to get information regarding your loans, your bank account balances, any type of history should we need to. So that way sometimes we would get your permission and say, hey, can I talk to your banker at such and such? And you give us permission, yes. We'll basically email them for the information that we need, such as the balance sheet or the cash flow projection. So that way, again, you don't have to be the middle person and print and scan and drop it off or mail it. And it's so simple as just sending that email. And then we provide what's called a labor trade agreement. This is if applicable. So with the labor trade agreement, it depends on how far into your operation you are. So for example, if you are a new and beginning producer that literally has no equity, which is like no assets, to be able to take care of some livestock. So for example, you don't have a tractor to feed, you don't have a tractor or a baler to put up the feed. So with this labor trade agreement, it just allows a third party to be able to help you take care of these cows. So for example, I and my dad. So my dad has all of the necessary machinery and equipment to be able to handle my operation plus his own operation. So he would, on this labor trade agreement, check off machinery and equipment, and then we'll both sign it. That lets us know that even though you don't have those as assets to be able to care for your cattle, you still have access to them free of charge. But you are exchanging your labor. So you're gonna, let's just say, put up half of the hay to be able to borrow the said tractor or baler. And then the next one is the detailed loan narrative and loan fund budget. So this is not a separate form. It is within the loan application. It's, I believe, on page 4 of the loan application. And it's part of the loan activity. So what this asks for is like a very detailed loan narrative. That's what you're going to do with the funds. Like, I am a new and beginning producer that needs to borrow $100,000 to purchase 50 cows, and I also need a $15,000 operating note. And then it goes into more detail of what your goals are. Like if you are able to grow your herd, you're going to put in there, I want to be able to start a heifer retention program to be able to keep back 10 heifer replacements of my own genetics, and then take care of those, put them on a heifer bull, and so on and so forth. So it can be as simple as just a loan fund budget, which is $100,000 for cows and $15,000 for an operating note, or it can be a very, very detailed loan narrative with all of the explanations of what you want to do with your operation. The next one is the financial literacy coursework. So Akiptan has been really, really great about creating our own courseworks to be able to provide to our producers or anybody, not necessarily just our applicants. But we have, for example, our rancher curriculum that goes more into detail about being a rancher and all of the different options on how to ranch. We have our value added business curriculum that we provide to non livestock operators. And then we have our youth curriculum that helps our youth entrepreneurs figure out how to create a business plan, what a balance sheet looks like, what a cash flow looks like. So we do provide those for you in case you are just now starting up and you don't know for sure how it is to manage a herd, how it is to start a business. So it just goes into a little bit more detail on all of the things. We also have a balance sheet and a cash flow template that we can provide to you should you not have one. Again, this goes back to being totally new, not having anything on hand. It's an Excel spreadsheet, so we can email it to you. It is editable. You can add, you can delete, you can change all of the categories. And so if you don't want to do it alone, you can ask a loan officer to sit down with you and help you create it. And that's kind of where that technical assistance comes in at. Everything is one-on-one, so it's very personal when it comes to that technical assistance. The loan officer is there for you and to help you with your overall goals for your operation. And then the last piece that we provide is the cattle growth chart. So this might not pertain to all applicants that come to our portfolio. Again, we do have a plethora of industries in our portfolio: livestock, fisheries, farmers, different things like that. So the cattle growth chart is specific for cattle herds. And so what this cattle growth chart does for us is if you want to start out at buying 50 head of cows, but you want to grow to 150, this cattle growth chart will help us figure out, one, if you're wanting to start a heifer retention program, how many heifers you're going to have to keep to be able to grow to that number. Or two, if you don't want to keep heifers because you don't have the capacity to, or you're not set up for it, but you want to buy back bred cows every year to grow that way, that also helps with that herd tracking. And so it's something that Akiptan really specializes in. I believe us and maybe another CDFI has access to it. But we do share it across the board. So it is on our website for anybody to look at, for anybody to try to use. There's a lot of formulas in that Excel spreadsheet. So again, don't hesitate to reach out to a loan officer should you need any help. And so with that, that's basically breaking it down into two sections. The first section of what you already have or should have, and then what Akiptan provides to you. So when I look at this and visualize it in two different sections, I'm like, okay, well, it doesn't feel that bad. Like I'm not going to be stressed. I'm not going to be overwhelmed with it. Like I have access to a loan officer. I have access to any Akiptan team member to be able to help break this down for me. So again, don't hesitate to reach out to Akiptan, a loan officer. Even Justine can help you with it. Being over on the program side, we're very diverse in what we can offer as far as technical assistance. And so that kind of just leads us to the next question, which is the follow-up question from what Justine had asked. What is one loan document that you have questions on today? And then you can put those in the chat so that way Justine can read them off.
And if you guys do have specific questions on specific forms, we'll try and get to those. If not, we can send over information. We have all of this pretty well broke down through different webinars and videos, and try to make it as bite-sized as we can, because we know that some of this information, when I tell my husband I need a balance sheet from him, he's like, "You need a what?" And so it's nice to have the walkthrough steps on how to prepare those things. So we can definitely share any of that information as well. All right, Melissa, I'm kicking it back to you for the loan application.
Sounds good. Okay, so now that we went over the loan client checklist, we're going to go deeper into what the documents are. You will see some visuals of our documents. You'll just see some templates. You might just see a slide that explains what the document is. So with our loan application, this is the application that you would fill out to apply for credit. So this is you as the applicant, whether you're an individual, whether you're applying as a joint applicant with your spouse or a family member or a business partner. And then we also have a third section for all of our actual business entities that are separate, which would be like your LLC. So there are three sections to how you're going to apply. And then for the most part, if you are an individual applicant, then you wouldn't have to fill out page 2 or page 3 of the application. We would ask that you initial those blank pages, just letting us know that you in fact intentionally left them blank. And then this will be how we set your loan up in our softwares and how we communicate with you. So for example, if you are a joint venture and you're applying with your spouse, do we reach out to you or do we reach out to your spouse for collecting all of the documents, for asking all of the questions, and then going through our underwriting phase? So with that, we do have two different type of application forms. We have, again, the PDF fillable application. You can fill it out on the internet, on the computer. You can print it and you can fill it out with a pen and then scan it back. Or we have the online application, which is listed on our website. It is something new. So for the most part, not all loan staff or all Akiptan staff have been through the loan application. However, it's pretty similar to our PDF fillable application. Pretty easy, pretty simple. If you have any questions, again, don't hesitate to reach out to anybody on the Akiptan team. Again, we're pretty diverse on how we can help. So that leads us into the next document which we would provide, which is that credit authorization form. So again, this allows us to, one, pull your credit, to look at your finances, to see overall the bigger picture on your history, what you currently owe, what you've paid off, different things like that. And then it allows us to contact that banker or that lender to get more information on your loans or your bank account. We usually only ask for this to be filled out once, and then if you ever want to revoke it, you do have that right. We would just need you to let us know if you no longer want us to use this credit authorization form. So the next one we talk about is the labor trade agreement. So again, this goes back to if you are a new and beginning producer, you don't have any assets, but you really want to get going on starting your own operation, and you have the help of your father or your mom or any other relative or a friend. And so what happens is you'll fill out this document and the other party will fill out this document, and then we kind of have a list of examples on what they can offer to provide in exchange for labor. So that's going back to that machinery and equipment with me and my dad. He would fill this out and check off tractor. He would check off haying equipment. If you have somebody else that's willing to do more, such as paying some of your expenses, as like vaccines, providing you the bulls, they'll basically check off anything that they are willing to help you with, and then you'll both sign the agreement. Again, this is a revocable agreement, so should one of the parties not want to do it anymore, as long as we can have both cooperations to let us know as your loan officers that you want to revoke the agreement, we can do that as well. Should this agreement stay into effect for, let's say, the term of the loan, but throughout that loan you were able to collect your own assets to be able to start building up your operation, then you probably no longer need this in year 6. So it's just a matter of where you're at within your operation. And then the next thing we'll go over is that loan narrative and loan fund budget. So I kind of explained it a little bit earlier. This is within the application on page 4. However, you do have the right to fill out another document to go more into detail, because it just gives you a little section on page 4 to kind of break it down for us. The main goal is just to have a better understanding of what you're going to do with the loan fund request and how you're going to break it up. So, for example, you're going to use that $100,000 to purchase cattle and then $15,000 for operating. So you're requesting a total of $115,000. And then that helps us figure out how we're going to set it up for terms. So with livestock, as Justine explained earlier, we can go anywhere from 7 to 12 years depending on the type of repayment. And then that operating note is due within 12 months from when you close. So all the way around, it just helps us as the loan officer, and then also helps you visualize what you're actually requesting as far as the breakdown goes. And then the next one we're going to go over is the financial literacy coursework. So this is what I was mentioning a little bit before, as far as what Akiptan was able to create to be able to help our producers further that technical assistance without that one-on-one partnership. And so we do have these all available via PDF. They are listed on our website. We have links to provide to you if you want to do it via email. We have hard copies in the office that we can mail out to you. So I always like to offer this to any producer, whether you are new and beginning or whether you are an experienced operator. Overall, it just helps give you options to figure out, like, I've grown up on my father's ranch. This is how he's been operating for the last 50 years. And it might not work for my operation because I'm just now getting started. I'm buying in a high market year. So I'm going to take that cattle rancher curriculum and I'm going to figure out, do I need to buy bulls right now or can I rent them? And what is that going to do to my operation? So just a little bit more education that we provide to help your overall success within your operation. The next things that we're going to go over is the financials. So this is like the nuts and bolts of your operation, the inflows, the outflows, and your overall equity. So the current balance sheet, that's a list of all of your assets, which is everything that you own, all the way down to your household goods, like a couch, a table, a TV. You know, most kids have Xboxes or computers. And so all of that gets listed on your asset schedule, and it kind of breaks it down between your ranch assets and then your personal assets. So for example, on your rancher side, that's where you'll list your livestock, your tractor, your baler, and the value of those. And then on the personal side, that's kind of where you'll list out, maybe you have an SUV to go to town in, but you're never going to use that for the ranch because you don't want to take it out into the pasture. And so that will go on your personal side of things. And so this just helps us see, one, how much you have built up on your own or with the help of another lender, and then it also helps us figure out what we can use as collateral to secure the loan. So for the most part, other lenders, you know, they might want 150% coverage for their loan. And Akiptan, we're only at a 1-to-1 ratio. So should you not have any assets listed on your balance sheet, we can take what you're purchasing and cover the loan with that piece of collateral. So if you're buying livestock and you don't have any assets, we'll take the livestock that you're purchasing to cover a $100,000 loan. And then the next one is the liability schedule. And so with that, it's just everything that you owe, whether it's a term loan, whether it's, you know, educational debt, medical debt, credit cards, consumer loan. If you owe your mom $200 for something that she borrowed, you can list that there. So overall, it just gives us an idea of your debts. Again, sometimes banks don't report to credit bureaus, so the credit report can only tell us so much, and that's kind of where that credit authorization form will come in if we need to, let's say, reach out to our local bank that we know doesn't report and ask him for a loan statement, and that will give us the balance and the interest and the payment and everything that we need to know. So With that list of assets and with that list of liabilities, we can check to see what your overall equity is, meaning how much are you worth as a person versus what you still owe on all of your debts that have been collected, over a period of time. So we do, again, if you already have that with the lender, we can use what you already have and tweak it and edit and verify it. Or we have templates to be able to provide you and help you with a one-on-one technical assistance to be able to build that. And then we go into the 3-year cash flow projection. And I believe we're going to watch a video that Justine has available.
All right. This is my technology coming back to work, you guys. So give me a second and let me know if you can hear it. Serious. All right. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Melissa, you're on.
Okay, not a problem. We
Sorry.
all love technology, right?
Oh, not
Okay.
today.
So with the 3-year cash flow, the video would have been able to help you visualize what it looks like and how it's set up. But for the most part, your cash flow is kind of like your inflows and your outflows with your cash handling, your income being generated versus what you're paying in expenses, what your living costs are, and if you have a town job, what your W-2 income is. So Akiptan is really good at helping those do projections based on the type of operations that they have. For the most part, other traditional lenders will only ask for a 1-year cash flow just to figure out what the current year is going to do. Whereas Akiptan, we like to do a 3-year cash flow to figure out, what it's going to look like in the next 3 years, and how we can help provide that technical assistance should we need to. So with the cash flow, what it's going to list is at the top portion, it's going to have all of your farm income or your ranch income, all the way down to if you get a pasture authorization with a third party who pays you PA income. If you have an ag program payment that you are doing with the USDA, we can list that. If you have a diverse type of income where you're doing, you have a cattle operation, but you're doing some small farming and selling some crops. So we'll kind of help you project what that income will be within the next year and when you're going to sell things versus your overall operating expenses for your operation. So this is, we kind of itemized things. Most producers have the same type of expenses, such as fuel and gas, labor that they pay for, lease that they pay for, vaccines, supplies, repairs and maintenance to any type of vehicles or machinery and equipment that you have. And then we're going to list out, that's its own separate thing. And then at the bottom, we're going to list out your personal information. So what you spend in living costs, and this can be anywhere from your groceries all the way down to, a lot of ranchers chew tobacco, all the way down to how much it's going to cost you to buy a can of chew. And so we're going to list that out and compare it to your off farm income, which is your town job, or if you're doing ends and odds, or if you're helping, your neighbor's brand and you get paid for that. That total income minus your living expenses, do you have a personal profit after that? Also considering what you owe on personal loans, like if you took a pickup loan out and what your monthly payment is. That lets us know if your farm or ranch can stand alone without taking in that outside income. And so once we get those figured out, then we'll see and make sure that with all the income and all of the expenses and living costs included, can you afford to make a loan payment? Let's say we're going to go back to that $100,000 and the payment is $5,000, and without that payment listed, you're only profiting $2,500. Akiptan might come back and say, it looks like we're over leveraging your profit or your income. Maybe instead of doing $100,000, we can start with a $50,000 loan, and go from there and see what that payment looks like. And then we do that for the next 3 years. So for 26, 27, and 28. And that will kind of help us figure out, are you able to afford another loan payment or a new loan payment within the next 3 years? Should you have a large profit margin before an extra payment is included? So, for example, you're pocketing $50,000, but you want to buy a hard asset and not take out a loan at the end of the year for 10 grand. Then we're only going to look at that $40,000 to assure that yes, you can make a payment for $100,000. And we know that projections might not be accurate. We know that life changes, things happen, we need to pivot. And so what we do is we have quarterly check-ins that will help with that with your loan officer. And then we do a year-end financial review to figure out what you actually did for the year and then base the projections off of that year. And then with the cattle growth chart, again, that's just going into taking all of your inflows and outflows and trying to figure out how much you can grow as a livestock operator. If your financials only allow you to keep back 10 heifers every year, maybe we decrease that to 5. Or if you have that big profit margin and you can keep back 25 heifer replacements, that's kind of where everything will kind of correlate together, and we can figure out how we can help you meet your financial goals and your herd growth. So with all of that, again, it might seem like a lot. It's not as frustrating knowing that you have the resources available to you to help break everything down. Should your loan get approved through our loan committee, then we go over what's called the review and closing process. So once we look at the review and closing, we have to make sure that we record the collateral that we're taking to be able to secure the loan. And so with that, we might take what's called an all blanket lien or an all ag chattel, which is anything you own ag related. It could be machinery and equipment, it could be title vehicles, your livestock. Should you not have any of those and you're only buying cattle, then we'll take the cattle. So we just have to assure that the collateral is recorded and sent to the loan staff. Once that happens, then we're going to go over the loan agreement and the security agreement. So they kind of play hand in hand. And you might be familiar if you've ever gotten a loan before, as small as a consumer loan. They have loan agreements in here, all the way up to a really large farm loan. So the loan agreement stipulates what we're going to do as a lender, provide you the loan. What the terms are, which is your interest rate, how long you're going to pay it back, what your blended payments or your interest-only payments will be. And there's also other covenants in the loan agreement, and they could differ between lenders. For Akiptan specifically, like we just want to make sure that you're keeping your collateral secured through insurance. You're going to report any deaths if you have livestock. You're going to take care of the animals. You're going to report any changes to your financials. You're going to follow up with us. And then it goes into our delinquency. Should you be late 10 days and we don't hear from you, and then it explains, what the process of the collection, how the collection process is going to start, what court system we're going to use to be able to do that collection process. Or if you do default and we do hear from you and it's out of your control, there are options to do one-on-one technical assistance to be able to extend a loan payment should we need to and get you back on track. So that is all to cover that loan and what we're going to do for you, provide you the money, and then what you're going to do in return. And then that leads us into the security agreement. So the security agreement is basically for our protection to be able to secure that loan that we're providing. So it is going to list the collateral that we're going to take to meet that 1-to-1 ratio to be able to provide you with that loan. And again, it can be as simple as just livestock or as big as, an all ag chattel blanket lien. And then it goes into more covenants. It kind of repeats what we ask of you to be able to care for the collateral that we're taking. Because if you have, let's just say, a really big death loss in livestock, then our collateral ratio goes down. So then we need to figure out how we can help each other. Again, this is a partnership. This is where that relationship comes in at. And then it just re-explains the delinquency process because we want to make sure you fully understand what you are signing, what you are getting into before taking out this debt. If things don't seem realistic and if you can't meet the requirements or the covenants, then you always have that right to opt out and not sign the loan agreement. And then comes the privacy agreement. So the privacy agreement is a form that we provide to you just as informational purposes to let you know what we do and don't share on your behalf. Because we are a nonprofit CDFI, we have to fundraise for every dollar that we bring in to relend. So our investors do ask for some reporting information. Again, it's never about your personal information. It could be as small as what type of operator were you able to use these loan funds for? And we can say livestock operator. It doesn't have to be in a region or a location or how many head that you have. And so that's where that privacy statement comes in at. You do get it every single time you get a loan with Akiptan. Just to remind you that we really consider your privacy and we're really high on confidentiality here at Akiptan. And then we give what's called a note of credit reporting. So that just lets you know, hey, you got a loan with Akiptan and we are going to report your loan to all 3 credit bureaus. And here's the reason why. Again, just taking into consideration that most ag banks don't do that, and we want to be able to help our producers build up their credit.
I have to say that I love that we report to the credit bureaus because my husband was one of those that always banked with somebody who didn't. And that was really interesting when we needed loans for different things because he didn't have any credit. So
I do want to hit a pause here. We are over the hour, so I don't want to take up any more of anybody's time. Should you have to leave, feel free to jump off. Again, sorry about the technical difficulties at the very beginning, but we have a couple more slides to do, and then we should be good to go. But just so you are aware, feel free to jump off. It is being recorded. It will be posted on our website for you guys to access, so that is an option. Okay, so then after, let's say you do sign the loan agreement, you agree to the terms, you agree to the covenants of the security agreement, then that leads us into the aftercare. So this is kind of where it separates Akiptan from your traditional banks. Traditional banks will give you the funds, you go purchase what you want to purchase with it, and then that's that. You probably won't see your banker until you sell calves or until you sell your hay. However, with Akiptan, we take that technical assistance and relationship a step further. And so what we'll do is follow up with a site visit should we need to. This can be in any form. Because we are nationwide, we do in-person site visits, we do FaceTime site visits, Zoom calls, we can do pictures, we can do recordings. So anything that will benefit you and make it easier for you. We don't want to have you take time out of your day to do a site visit in person if you can simply record your collateral. And then we do what's called informal quarterly check-ins. With these check-ins, we'll just call you every quarter, follow up to see how things are going. I kind of like to hit the type of operator you are. So for example, if you're a cattle operator and you calve in the fall or calve in the spring and sell in the fall, I'll kind of hit you at that point, ring you up and be like, hey, how's calving season going? We'll talk about your calving numbers. That's when you'll report if you had a significant loss due to some reason. If I know you hay during the summer, I'll call you during haying season. Hey, how are things going? Are you in a drought? How does, the grass look? And then again in the fall, getting ready to sell. How many calves are you selling? Are we are we good to go for keeping back 10 heifers? Do we need to adjust? And then at the year end, when you sell your calves, when you call out your open cows, then that's kind of when your production will start over for the next year. That's kind of when your whole business will take a turn and you're basically going to start all over. Then we'll sit down with you and do what's called an annual financial review. With this financial review, we'll go back through and compare what we've projected as far as income and expenses to see what you actually spent and what your actual income is. Update your cash flow, and then we'll kind of base your next year's projections on that actual report. Again, projections change all the time. We could be very low on the cattle market with your next three projections. The cattle market is booming right now. Maybe we need to adjust that. Same thing with your balance sheet. Should you have a really good year and you have a really, really great profit margin and you want to take that and go buy more cows or go buy, that tractor that you needed without having to take out a loan, then that's a capital expenditure added to your operation without having to take on additional debt. So then we'll update your asset schedule and your liability schedule. And then any further technical assistance that might be needed is given anytime you have a wild idea, like Justine said. Don't be afraid to come to Akiptan and run it by. We can plug some numbers, we can do, some projections on your behalf and let you know, like, is this wild idea gonna work? Maybe it's not a right now thing, maybe it's a next year thing. Let's see how it goes. And then we ask, I did skip over this first part and I apologize, but for our disbursements, when you get a loan and you're approved for $100,000, for the most part, banks will put the money in your account. You're good to go. You have those funds available to go and buy whatever you're going to buy. However, with Akiptan, because we have to fundraise for every dollar, some of our investors would like to know what is being purchased. And so what we'll ask for is an invoice or a quote or even as a bill of sale or a receipt if you already purchased it and you want to get reimbursed, for us to be able to give you the funds needed for that purchase. So for example, if you go to a sale barn and you end up only buying 10 head at $20,000 and not for the full 100,000, you send us that sales sheet, we'll put that money in your account and verify, yep, they in fact spent $20,000 on 10 head of cows. So that's kind of a little bit different than traditional banks. Some of you might have noticed that with FSA. FSA kind of does that as well. And so that's kind of how we help track those disbursements too. Should you come under budget and not need the full $100,000, you're only going to pay back what you borrow plus interest. And you can always return those funds back to Akiptan, so that way we can relend those to another producer. So with that, that's kind of a flow of one, providing the documents more into detail and showing you some of the documents, two, kind of letting you know like the processes of it, the application stage, the loan closing stage, and then the aftercare stage. And so with that, we would like to know how you would rate your understanding of Akiptan's loan application process now that everything has been explained. What stage are you at? Is it a 0? Still new to you, you fully don't understand it? 3, you need to know a little bit more about things? Or 5, you're pretty familiar and our explanations have really helped you?
You guys can feel free to drop those in the chat here. Melissa, thank you again for all of your knowledge and for sharing that with us. I'm going to kind of breeze over questions here quick, guys, because I know that we are already over time, but just know if you guys have any questions at all, you can reach out to me, you can reach out to Melissa, you can send an email to our staff email and we'll put that up at the end. We are always here for questions. Also, to make note of, we do have some resources that are right online, and we do have physical copies of this. This is a Native Agriculture Producer Succession Guide, walking you through estate type planning, transition planning, and then we also have the Rancher Record Book online and in physical copies. So feel free to request copies of those. We'll get them mailed out as soon as we can. Melissa already went through the curriculums in detail. I always like to shine a light on them because it's part of the programming department, and we're very proud of these. If you have kids that are interested in agriculture business, the Young Entrepreneurs Guide is amazing. So definitely check those out. There is a full library of recordings and financial information on our website that code right there will get you directly to all of those. Wealth of knowledge. If you ever have a question, dive into that library, see where you go, and make sure you let us know if you can't find something. We're always looking for new opportunities to help. This is our newsletter sign up. Please feel free to sign up for our newsletter. This comes out 4 times a year. It does come out in mail and email. And so we just like you guys to know everything that we're doing and deadlines and things that are coming up. And last but certainly not least is our feedback survey. I was told I'm not allowed to say that you have to do this before you get off of the call, but we really do ask that you do fill this out. It gives us a great idea for where we're headed and what we need to be doing to make sure that you guys have all the knowledge for success. So feel free to fill that out for us. It is something that we review all the time. And last, contact us. We are always available and always here for Native agricultural producers. That's all of our information there. And we want to thank you again for bearing with us through some technical difficulties. Thank Melissa and her team for bringing our loans to life, and really appreciate each of you on this call today. Thank you so much, and we'll see you later.